The morning sun shone bright over New Haven. Children played in the gardens while their parents worked in the fields. The blue-skinned Zephyrians moved quietly through their daily tasks. They had lived in peace for so long that war seemed like an old story from distant worlds. Commander Lyra Windweaver stood on the tall tower in the center of the city. She watched the farmers tend their crops in the valley below. The harvest would be good this year. Food would be plenty for everyone. Life was good on New Haven. Then the sky changed. Dark shapes appeared high above the clouds. At first, Lyra thought they were storm clouds. But these clouds moved wrong. They came down fast and straight. Too fast. Too straight. "Commander!" A young officer ran up the stairs. His blue face was pale with fear. "Ships! Enemy ships!" Lyra grabbed her looking glass and pointed it at the sky. What she saw made her heart stop. Huge metal ships dropped through the atmosphere. They were black and covered with spikes. Red lights blinked along their sides like angry eyes. The Korthak Empire had found them. "Sound the alarm," Lyra said. Her voice stayed calm even though fear filled her chest. "Get everyone to the safe places, now." The warning bells rang across the city. The peaceful sounds of morning died away. Parents grabbed their children. Workers dropped their tools and ran for cover. The Zephyrians had practiced for this day, but they never believed it would come. Elder Cain Brightstone was in the temple when the bells started ringing. He was an old Zephyrian with silver hair and kind eyes. The people came to him when they were scared or hurt. Today, they would need him more than ever. "Stay calm, my children," he told the crowd that rushed into the temple. "We have plans for this. Go to the deep shelters, help each other. We will get through this together." But even as he spoke, Cain felt the fear in their minds. Zephyrians could feel each other's thoughts and emotions. Right now, terror was everywhere. Dr. Nina Stormwind was working in the hospital when the attack began. She was checking on a patient when the building shook. The lights went out for a moment, then came back on. "What was that?" asked her nurse. Nina looked out the window and saw fire in the sky. The enemy ships were shooting at the city. Bright beams of energy struck buildings and turned them into burning ruins. "Get ready," Nina told her staff. "We are about to be very busy." The first wave of Korthak fighters screamed over the city. They were fast ships with sharp edges and loud engines. They fired at anything that moved. The Zephyrian defense towers shot back with blue energy beams, but there were too many enemy ships. Commander Windweaver ran to the command center in the basement of her tower. Officers sat at glowing screens, trying to track all the enemy ships. "How many?" she asked. "At least 50 big ships," an officer replied. "Maybe more coming, and hundreds of fighters." Lyra felt sick. The Zephyrians had only 12 defense ships and 20 fighters. They were farmers and doctors, not warriors. Their weapons were made to protect, not to attack. "Send out the distress call," she ordered. "All frequencies. Tell everyone we need help." The communications officer worked fast. His fingers moved over the controls, sending the same message again and again into space. "This is New Haven Colony. We are under attack by the Korthak Empire. 2.3 million civilians in danger. Please help us. Anyone who can hear this, please help us." But space was big, and help was far away. The Korthak ships landed soldiers all around the city. These were not like the Zephyrians. The Korthak were tall and covered in hard, crystal-like armor. Their faces were hidden behind dark masks. They carried big guns that fired red energy bolts. War Chief Grimjaw stood on the bridge of his command ship and watched the city burn below. He was the leader of the Korthak 12th Fleet. He had conquered many worlds for the Empire. This one would be easy. "Weak," he said to his officers. "These blue people are too soft. They will break quickly." The Korthak soldiers moved through the streets like a dark flood. They kicked down doors and dragged families from their homes. Anyone who fought back was shot. Anyone who ran was chased down. Dr. Stormwind worked without stopping as wounded people filled her hospital. Burns from energy weapons, broken bones from falling buildings, children crying for their parents. "We need more beds," she told her nurses. "Set up anything you can find. Use the floors if you have to." Outside, the battle was going badly. The Zephyrian defense ships tried to fight, but the enemy had too many ships. One by one, the blue ships were shot down. Their pilots died trying to protect their home. Commander Windweaver watched her forces fall apart. Half the city was already burning. Thousands of her people were dead or captured. The enemy was too strong. "Keep sending the distress call," she told her communications officer. The young man had tears in his eyes, but he kept working. "This is New Haven. We are falling. Please, someone help us. Our children are dying. Please." But the galaxy was a big place. The major powers were far away or busy with their own problems. The Centauri Alliance was fighting rebels in their own space. The Stellar Federation was dealing with trade wars. The Void Collective did not care about small colonies. By the end of the first day, the Korthak controlled most of the city. They set up big camps to hold their prisoners. They brought in mining machines to dig for rare metals in the ground. They planned to strip the planet bare and sell everything valuable. Elder Kane led a group of survivors into the mountains. They carried what they could and left everything else behind. Children cried as they walked away from their homes. Parents tried to comfort them, but there was little comfort to give. "We will come back," Kane promised them. "This is our world. We will not give up." But as he looked back at the burning city, the old Zephyrian wondered if that was true. The enemy was so strong, his people were so few, and help seemed like it would never come. Commander Windweaver and her remaining soldiers set up a hidden base in the Crystal Mountains. From there they could see their home burning in the distance. The enemy ships circled overhead like metal vultures. "Keep sending the call," she said again. Her voice was tired now, but she would not give up. "Someone will hear us. Someone will come." Deep in space, far from New Haven, that call traveled through the darkness. It passed dead worlds and empty stations. It crossed the territories of species that did not care about distant wars. But sometimes, messages find their way to the right ears. Sometimes, help comes from places you never expect. The distress call from New Haven was about to reach someone who would not ignore it. Someone who believed that when innocent people called for help, you answered that call no matter what the cost. The storm was coming. The Korthak just did not know it yet. 3 weeks had passed since the Korthak came to New Haven. The beautiful city was now a place of smoke and fear. Enemy soldiers walked the streets with their big guns. The blue-skinned Zephyrians who once lived free were now slaves in their own home. Commander Lyra Windweaver crouched in a cave high in the Crystal Mountains. Around her, the last free Zephyrians tried to stay alive. There were maybe 2,000 of them left. Old people, children, and anyone strong enough to fight. They had little food and less hope. "The enemy has built 3 new prison camps," reported Captain Vale Skyborn. He had just returned from watching the city through a spyglass. "They are making our people dig in the mines. Anyone who gets sick or tired is shot." Lyra closed her eyes. Her people were peaceful. They grew food and healed the sick. They had never hurt anyone. But the Korthak did not care about that. "What about the distress call?" she asked. "Still sending," said the communications officer. "But no one answers." Far away in the deep darkness of space, someone was listening. Captain Jake Martinez sat in the command chair of a small human ship called the Watcher. His job was to listen to radio signals from all across the galaxy. Most of the time, it was boring work. Ship traffic reports, weather updates, trade negotiations. But today was different. "Captain?" called Lieutenant Amy Foster from her station. "I'm getting something strange on the long-range channels." Jake was a tall man with brown hair and tired eyes. He had been in space for 10 years, watching and listening. "What kind of strange?" "It is a distress call, but not from any species I know. The language is being translated by the computer, but the voice sounds scared." Amy was good at her job. She could hear things in radio signals that others missed. Fear, hope, lies, truth. Right now, she heard desperation. "Put it through the speakers," Jake said. The bridge filled with the voice of a Zephyrian communications officer, speaking words that had been said over and over for 3 weeks. This is New Haven Colony. We are under attack by the Korthak Empire. 2.3 million civilians in danger. Please help us. Our children are dying. Please, someone help us. Jake felt something cold in his stomach. How long has this been broadcasting? Computer says 21 days, 14 hours, Amy replied. It started strong, but it is getting weaker, like their power is running out. 21 days. Jake stood up from his chair. They have been calling for help for 3 weeks, and no one has answered? Amy checked her screens again. The signal is going everywhere, Captain. Every major government should have heard this by now. But governments moved slowly. They had meetings and committees. They talked about treaties and trade deals. While they talked, people died. Jake looked at the star charts on his screen. New Haven was far from Earth, but not impossible to reach. Get me General Carl Bishop, emergency channel. Sir? Amy looked confused. Should we not go through normal channels first? Normal channels are the reason those people have been screaming for help for 3 weeks with no answer, Jake said. His voice was angry now. Get me the general. On New Haven, Dr. Nina Stormwind worked in what used to be a school. The Korthak had turned it into a medical station for their prisoners. But Nina was not treating the enemy. She was trying to save her own people. The conditions were terrible. Too many sick people in too small a space. Not enough medicine. Not enough food. The Korthak gave them just enough to keep them alive and working. A young Zephyrian girl lay on a dirty blanket. She had been beaten by a guard for moving too slowly in the mines. Nina cleaned her wounds with water that was not very clean. It was all she had. Will I see my mother again? The girl asked. Nina did not know what to say. The girl's mother had been taken to a different camp. Maybe she was alive. Maybe not. The Korthak did not care about keeping families together. I hope so, Nina whispered. It was the best truth she could give. In the mountains, Elder Cain Brightstone tried to keep hope alive among his people. But it was hard when children cried from hunger and the old ones died from cold. The caves were not made for living. They were hiding places, not homes. Tell us the old stories, asked a small boy whose parents had been captured in the city. Cain sat by the small fire and began to speak. He told stories of brave Zephyrians from long ago, heroes who fought monsters and saved their people. But as he talked, he wondered if there would be anyone left to remember these stories when the Korthak were finished with them. Commander Windweaver planned her next attack. Her fighters had hit 3 supply convoys in the past week. They had rescued 50 prisoners and destroyed some enemy equipment. But for every small victory, the Korthak got stronger. We cannot win like this, Captain Skyborn said quietly. There are too many of them. Then we make them pay for every step, Lyra replied. We make them remember that Zephyrians do not give up easily. But inside, she knew he was right. They were fighting a war they could not win. Unless help came soon, there would be no Zephyrians left to save. In space, General Carl Bishop listened to the recorded distress call from New Haven. He was a big man with gray hair and scars from old battles. He had fought in the Earth-Mars conflicts and the asteroid wars. He knew what war really cost. 3 weeks, he said to Captain Martinez over the video link. And the galactic powers have done nothing? Nothing, sir, Jake replied. I checked the diplomatic channels. The Centauri Alliance sent a formal protest. The Stellar Federation is studying the situation. The Void Collective does not even respond. While people die. Yes, sir. Bishop was quiet for a long moment. He looked at reports on his desk. Humanity was still new to galactic politics. Most alien species thought of humans as young and primitive. Earth had been invited to join the galactic community only 50 years ago. They were supposed to observe and learn, not get involved in conflicts. But humans had a problem with standing by while innocent people suffered. Captain Martinez, Bishop said finally, I want you to take your ship closer to that system. Get me detailed information about what is happening there. Yes, sir, and if we find something bad, then we will decide what to do about it. Jake knew that tone. The general was planning something that the politicians would not like. Good. On New Haven, the Korthak were building more than prison camps. War Chief Grimjaw walked through a new factory that his engineers had built. Machines pulled rare metals from the ground and turned them into parts for ships and weapons. "How long until full production?" he asked his chief engineer. 2 months, the engineer replied. "Maybe less if we work the prisoners harder." "Work them until they break," Grimjaw said. "There are always more prisoners. Casualties?" "Unknown. The Korthak are tough fighters, but our weapons are different from what they are used to. That might give us an advantage." Carter looked around the room. These people had spent their lives protecting Earth and humanity. Now he was asking them to risk their lives for strangers on a distant world. "What are the chances of success?" 50-50, Stone answered honestly. "Maybe better if we surprise them, maybe worse if they have reinforcements nearby." Not good odds, but sometimes good odds were not the point. Captain Jake Martinez was still in space near New Haven, hiding his ship behind an asteroid and watching the enemy fleet. His communications officer, Amy Foster, was monitoring all the radio traffic she could find. "The distress calls are getting weaker," she reported. "I think their power is running out." Jake looked at the enemy ships through his telescope. Big, powerful vessels designed to scare people into surrendering. They had worked on dozens of worlds, but they had never fought humans before. "Any word from Earth?" he asked. "General Bishop wants us to stay hidden and keep watching. He says help might be coming." Jake hoped it would come soon. Every day they waited, more people died. On New Haven, Commander Lyra Windweaver led another night raid against a Korthak supply convoy. Her fighters moved like ghosts through the mountains, hitting fast and disappearing before the enemy could react. They destroyed 3 transport trucks and rescued 20 prisoners, but it felt like trying to empty an ocean with a bucket. For every person they saved, hundreds more suffered in the camps. "Commander," said Captain Skyborn as they returned to their cave hideout, "the people are losing hope. Maybe we should think about surrender." Lyra stopped walking and turned to face him. "Surrender to what? Slavery? Death? Look what they have done to our world." "But if we surrender, maybe they will treat the prisoners better." "The Korthak do not show mercy," she replied. "They only understand strength. If we stop fighting, we become nothing but tools for them to use until we break." In the camp, Dr. Nina Stormwind worked by candlelight to treat a woman who had been beaten for dropping a load of rocks. The doctor's hands shook from exhaustion. She had not slept more than 2 hours at a time in weeks. "Doctor," the woman whispered, "do you think anyone will come to help us?" Nina did not know what to say. She had heard the guards talking. No one was coming. The galaxy did not care about one small colony. But she could not take away the woman's hope. Sometimes hope was the only medicine that worked. "Someone will come," she said. "Someone always comes." Elder Kane Brightstone sat with the children in the deepest cave. He told them stories to help them forget about their empty stomachs and the cold stone around them. Tonight he told them about heroes from the old days. "But where are the heroes now?" asked a little girl whose parents had been taken to the work camps. Kane thought about that question. In the old stories, heroes always appeared when they were needed most. They came from far away and saved the day with strength and courage. But real life was different from stories. Or was it? In the Earth War Room, President Carter made his decision. "We go," he said simply. Admiral Stone nodded. "I will have the fleet ready in 12 hours. "The politicians will not like this," warned General Bishop. "We are supposed to go through proper channels, get permission from the Galactic Council." "The Galactic Council has had 3 weeks to act," Carter replied. "How much more time do they need? How many more people have to die while they have meetings?" Commander Clark was already planning the ground assault. "My Marines are trained for this kind of work. We can hit multiple targets at once, break their command structure before they know what is happening." "What if other species object to us interfering?" asked one of the advisors. Carter thought about the images they had seen, children in work camps, families torn apart, people dying because they were not useful enough to keep alive. Then they can explain to their own people why they think those lives do not matter, he said. Admiral Stone left to prepare her ships. Commander Clark went to brief his Marines. General Bishop began the careful work of moving a fleet without letting other species know what was happening. In 6 hours, the human fleet would leave Earth orbit. In 18 hours, they would reach New Haven. And then the Korthak Empire would learn something that no amount of diplomatic meetings could teach them. When humans said they were coming to help, they meant it. Captain Martinez received the coded message while he was watching another group of Zephyrian prisoners being marched to the mines. The message was short and simple. The drop pods launched from the Freedom like falling stars. They burned through New Haven's atmosphere and slammed into the ground near the main Korthak base. The pods opened and humans poured out, ready to fight. On the planet's surface, Commander Lyra Windweaver was watching the battle in the sky through her telescope. She could hardly believe what she was seeing. New ships, different ships, ships that were fighting the Korthak and winning. "Who are they?" asked Captain Skyborn. Lyra did not know, but whoever they were hitting the enemy harder than anyone had hit them since the invasion began. Hope began to grow in her chest for the first time in weeks. The space battle was not going well for the Korthak. Their elegant ships with their energy weapons were being torn apart by human tactics they had never seen before. The humans used missiles and railguns, kinetic weapons that punched through energy shields like they were made of paper. "Impossible," muttered War Chief Grimjaw as he watched another of his cruisers explode. "What kind of savages use such primitive weapons?" The kind that won wars, as he was about to learn. Admiral Stone watched the battle unfold on her tactical screens. The Korthak were good fighters, but they fought like most galactic species, clean, elegant, following rules that made sense for energy weapons and shield technology. Humans fought dirty. They had learned their tactics in the mud and blood of their home world. No rules except winning. "Target their command ship," she ordered. "All batteries." The Liberty and her sister ships focused their fire on Grimjaw's flagship. Railgun rounds traveling at a significant fraction of light speed tore through the Korthak shields and armor. The elegant ship broke apart like a toy, but Grimjaw escaped in a shuttle, and the battle was far from over. On the ground, Ryan Clark's team hit the main Korthak communication center like a bolt of lightning. They came out of the night with weapons blazing, cutting down guards and destroying equipment before the enemy knew what was happening. "Communications down," reported Sergeant Lisa Park over the radio. "They cannot call for help." "Good," Ryan replied. "Now for the hard part." The prison camps were heavily guarded, but the guards had never faced human soldiers before. They were used to fighting people who surrendered when the situation became hopeless. Humans did not understand the word surrender when innocent lives were at stake. Colonel Williams led the main assault on the largest camp. His Marines moved through the Korthak defenses like a storm wind, overwhelming everything in their path. The enemy soldiers were tough, but they had gotten used to fighting starving civilians. Armed humans were a different kind of problem. Dr. Nina Stormwind was treating wounded prisoners when she heard the explosions outside the camp. At first, she thought it was another punishment raid by the guards. Then, she heard something different. Weapons she did not recognize, shouts in a language she had never heard. The door to the medical building burst open. Nina expected to see Korthak soldiers. Instead, she saw something impossible. A human in military armor, carrying a rifle and looking around the room with careful eyes. "Doctor?" the human said in accented but understandable Zephyrian. The translator device on his helmet was working hard. "We are here to help." Nina stared at him. "You are not Korthak." "No, we are humans, from Earth. We heard your call for help." Nina felt tears running down her face. Someone had come. After a month of hell, someone had finally come. In the mountain caves, Elder Kane Brightstone felt something change in the air. The children around him were looking up at the ceiling of the cave, listening to sounds from outside. Explosions. Fighting. But different fighting than they had heard before. "Elder," said one of the children. What is happening? Kane listened carefully. In the distance, he could hear the sound of ships fighting in the sky, but these were not the one-sided battles they had heard for the past month. This sounded like a real fight. I think, he said slowly, the heroes from the stories have finally arrived. Captain Susan Hayes brought her damaged fighter back to the Liberty after destroying 3 enemy ships and 2 orbital platforms. Her bird was shot full of holes but still flying. Human fighters were built to take punishment and keep going. How are we doing out there? Admiral Stone asked over the radio. The orbital defenses are down, Susan reported. Enemy fleet is in full retreat. A few ships are trying to reach the jump point, but most of them are scrap metal. Stone nodded with satisfaction. The space battle was won, but the real work was just beginning. There were millions of people on the planet who needed help, and cleaning up the mess the Korthak had made would take time. Begin landing operations, she ordered. Get our people down there and start pulling civilians out of those camps. War Chief Grimjaw sat in his escape shuttle and watched his fleet die. In 30 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. The humans fought like demons with no regard for the elegant rules of galactic warfare. They used weapons that civilized species had abandoned centuries ago. They took casualties that would have made other species retreat and kept fighting. Who were these creatures? And why had no one warned him about them? His shuttle reached the jump point and escaped into hyperspace. Behind him, New Haven burned, but for the first time in a month, it was Korthak installations that were on fire. On the planet, human marines worked through the night to free prisoners and destroy enemy equipment. They had medical teams treating the sick and wounded. They had engineers working to restore power and water to the cities. Commander Windweaver came down from the mountains with her remaining fighters. When she saw humans working alongside her people, treating their wounds and sharing their food, she understood something important. These strangers had not come for profit or conquest. They had come simply because someone was in trouble and needed help. The storm had arrived, and when it was finished, nothing on New Haven would ever be the same. 6 days after the humans arrived, the last Korthak soldier on New Haven was either dead, captured, or running for the hills. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. Commander Lyra Windweaver stood in what used to be the center of her city. Half the buildings were ruins. The beautiful gardens where children had played were now fields of broken stone and twisted metal. The Korthak had built their ugly factories right through the heart of the Zephyrian neighborhoods. But people were coming home. Families that had been separated for a month were finding each other again. Children were laughing for the first time since the invasion began. And everywhere she looked, humans were working alongside her people to rebuild what had been destroyed. Commander Windweaver? A human woman approached her. She was tall with brown hair and wore the uniform of a human medical officer. I am Dr. Emma Brooks. I have been working with Dr. Stormwind at the main hospital. Lyra had heard about Dr. Brooks. The human had worked for 3 straight days without sleep, treating wounded Zephyrians. She had saved dozens of lives with medicines and techniques that the Zephyrians did not have. Dr. Brooks, my people owe you a great debt. Emma looked uncomfortable. We just did what anyone would do, what anyone should do. That was what surprised Lyra the most about the humans. They acted like rescuing an entire planet was just normal behavior, like anyone would cross half the galaxy to help strangers. But most species would not. Most species would have committees and meetings and debates. The humans had just come. In the main hospital, Dr. Nina Stormwind worked next to her new human colleague. They had language barriers and different medical techniques, but they had learned to work together quickly. Both species wanted the same thing, to heal the sick and ease suffering. This technique for treating radiation sickness, Nina said, watching Emma work. I have never seen anything like it. We learned it the hard way, Emma replied. Humans have a talent for creating problems that require new solutions. War taught us a lot about fixing what gets broken. Nina thought about that. The humans seemed to know about suffering in a way that her peaceful people did not. They had clearly fought many wars on their own world, but instead of making them cruel, it had taught them to value peace and protect the innocent. "Will you teach me?" Nina asked. "Of course. And perhaps you can teach me about your healing meditation techniques. I have seen them work wonders." Near the ruined spaceport, engineer Mike Turner supervised the repair of the power grid. His team of human technicians worked with Zephyrian engineers to restore electricity to the city. It was hard work, but both species were learning from each other. "Your power systems are amazing," said Tam Brightwater, a young Zephyrian engineer. "So clean and efficient. No pollution at all." Mike wiped sweat from his face. "Yeah, well, you should see what we started with. Took us a couple of centuries to figure out how not to poison our own planet. Your people were smart enough to get it right the first time." The work was going faster than anyone had expected. Human engineering was rough, but effective. Zephyrian technology was elegant and clean. Together, they were rebuilding the city better than it had been before. In the temporary government building, Ambassador Patricia Quinn met with Elder Kane Brightstone and other Zephyrian leaders. Patricia was Earth's first official ambassador to an alien species. It was not a job anyone had trained for. "The question," said Elder Brightstone, "is what happens now. The Korthak Empire will not forget what happened here. They will want revenge." Patricia nodded. She had been thinking about the same thing. "That is why we need to work together. Alone, either of our species can be defeated. Together, we might be strong enough to protect both our worlds." "You are proposing an alliance?" "I am proposing friendship, trade, shared knowledge, mutual defense. Your people have technology that could help humanity. Our military might can protect both our species from empires like the Korthak." Kane was quiet for a long moment. The Zephyrians had been peaceful for so long that the idea of military alliances made them uncomfortable, but the past month had taught them that sometimes peace required strength. "What do your leaders on Earth say about this?" "They say that any species willing to cross the galaxy to help strangers is the kind of friend humanity wants to have." Admiral Lisa Stone walked through the largest former prison camp. It had been turned into a temporary refugee center while the city was rebuilt. Families lived in tents, but they were together again. Children played games while their parents worked on rebuilding their lives. A small Zephyrian girl ran up to her. The child had been in the camp for almost the entire occupation. She was thin and pale, but her eyes were bright. "Are you the human admiral?" the girl asked. "I am. Thank you for saving us." Lisa knelt down to be at the girl's eye level. "What is your name?" "Vera Starsong." "Well, Vera Starsong, you do not need to thank us. We were just doing what neighbors should do for each other." The girl thought about that. "Are we neighbors? Earth is very far away." "Distance does not matter," Lisa said. "If you need help and we can give it, then we are neighbors." In a secret prison deep underground, human interrogators questioned captured Korthak officers. Commander Ryan Clark watched through a one-way window as his specialists tried to get information about Korthak military plans. The aliens were not cooperating. They seemed confused more than defiant, as if they could not understand what had happened to their mighty fleet. "They keep asking the same questions," reported Captain Mark Brown, the lead interrogator. "Who are we? Where did we come from? Why did we interfere?" "What do you tell them?" "The truth, that we are humans from Earth, and we came because innocent people asked for help." Ryan shook his head. "I do not think they understand that concept. No, sir, I do not think they do." The Korthak Empire was built on conquest and slavery. The idea that someone would risk their lives for strangers was completely foreign to them. It was going to be their greatest weakness in the wars to come. 3 months after the liberation, New Haven was a different world. The city had been rebuilt with a mixture of human and Zephyrian technology. It was stronger than before, but also more beautiful. Clean energy powered elegant buildings. Defensive systems hidden in the hills could protect against any future invasion. But the biggest change was not in the buildings, it was in the people. Zephyrian children learned human languages in school. Human settlers came to help with the rebuilding and decided to stay. Marriages between the species were already being discussed. Two very different peoples were becoming something new together. Commander Windweaver, now promoted to general, stood with Admiral Stone at the memorial they had built for those who died in the occupation. Thousands of names were carved into the black stone wall. Zephyrians and humans who had given their lives to liberate New Haven. "Do you think it was worth it?" Lyra asked. Lisa looked at the city bustling with activity below them. Zephyrian farmers worked alongside human engineers. Children of both species played together in the rebuilt gardens. Scientists shared knowledge that would benefit everyone. "Ask me in 50 years, she said. "When those children down there are building starships together and exploring new worlds. When the Korthak Empire learns that there are some things in this galaxy that cannot be conquered." Far across space, on Earth, President John Carter read the latest reports from New Haven. The Alliance was working better than anyone had dared hope. Zephyrian medical technology was already saving human lives. Human military training was helping other species defend themselves against Korthak expansion. But the best news was something simpler. When other species heard what humanity had done at New Haven, they started calling Earth directly when they had problems. Not their governments or their committees. They called humanity, because they had learned that when humans said they would help, they meant it. The war with the Korthak Empire was not over. It was just beginning. But now humanity was not facing it alone. They had friends among the stars, species that trusted them, allies that would stand with them when the real fighting started. In the rebuilt hospital on New Haven, Dr. Nina Stormwind treated her last patient of the day. It was a human Marine who had been injured in a construction accident. As she healed his broken arm with Zephyrian techniques, she thought about how much had changed. A year ago, she had never seen a human being. Now she worked with them every day, learned from them, trusted them with her life and the lives of her people. "Dr. Stormwind?" The Marine looked at her with curious eyes. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why did your people trust us so quickly? Most species take years to build the kind of alliance we have." Nina smiled. "Because actions speak louder than words. You came when we called. You fought when we could not. You shared what you had when we had nothing. What more did we need to know?" The Marine nodded. "I guess that makes sense." It did make sense. In a galaxy full of species that talked about honor and justice, humanity had simply shown up and done the right thing. No speeches, no conditions, no demands for payment. They had come because someone needed help. That was enough. As the sun set over New Haven, children of two species played together in the gardens. Their laughter carried on the wind, mixing languages and cultures into something new and beautiful. The storm had passed. In its wake, it left something that the galaxy had never seen before. A friendship between species built not on trade or military necessity, but on the simple understanding that when someone calls for help, you answer. And in the depths of space, other voices were beginning to call. Other species that had heard the story of New Haven and wanted to know more about these humans who kept their promises. The galaxy was about to get much more interesting.